Today, I am having an open and honest and fun conversation with my friend, Oonagh Duncan. Oonagh is the CEO and founder of Fit Feels Good. She is a multi-award-winning fitness expert, media personality, and author of the international best-selling book, Healthy as Fuck, also known as Ditch the Diet in the US. I've known Oonagh for several years, and I'm just so honored to have her on the show to share a piece of her with you. In this episode, Oonagh shares some business advice that she received actually from acting that hands down will completely transform the way that you work with your customers or clients, the messaging that you have for marketing, the website copy. It will transform your business if you're not doing this already. It's such an excellent tip. And she also shares and really opens up about some of the thoughts she's been having, where her curiosity is right now. And I just really appreciate her being open with what's on her mind and what's been going on in her life and these big thoughts that she's having. And I'm just really glad that we can have that conversation and share it with you. So let's get this party started. Are you ready to open up and talk about all things business? I'm Crystal Vilkaitis, a curious entrepreneur who loves talking about business, especially over a glass of wine. I started Crystal Uncorked to share open and honest conversations about my journey and talk to other entrepreneurs about their experiences. We pull back the curtain and talk about the highs and the lows. Wine isn't required, but is recommended. This is Crystal Uncorked. Oonagh, I am so excited you are here. Welcome to Crystal Uncorked.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this so much.
Oh my gosh, me too. So before we dive in and hear about you and like peek behind the curtain, I'm so excited for this conversation. I just want to say two things. One, I love Healthy as Fuck, your book that I mentioned in the intro. I love it. I feel like it's something I need to listen to at least once a year. It's like you're such a good coach. I listen to it. People can obviously read it, but I love that you're reading it. And I have to tell you, like for me, I can get caught up in the fads and like what she looks like and how I'm supposed to look. And you help people really get clear on like, no, what do you want? What makes sense for your life? And then setting up healthy habits so you can actually achieve these things and see long-term success. And that's been a game changer for me. So I just have to say, I fucking love Healthy as Fuck.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for saying that. I had no idea. So thank you.
I love it. I love it. And then the other thing, it kind of goes along with what I just said of kind of like, you know, comparing or getting clear on what you want with your body. You and I met several years ago at a networking event and, we have stayed in touch. I mean, I have to just share, we have this like best mastermind group. We entered this awards thing, like competition for this mastermind we were in, and Oonagh and I and 8 other people were finalists, and all the ladies from our group, we formed our own mastermind, the 6 of us, which I'm sure has been just like awesome for you. It's been, oh my gosh, like pivotal.
Such a game changer. Such a game changer. Yeah. I leave every single session that we get together. I leave so inspired. And it's one of those things that really makes me, turn a corner when I get to talk to you guys. It's amazing.
I feel the same way. And I feel like you guys totally put me in check all the time. It's like, Crystal, what the hell? And I need that. But through the mastermind that we were in, you spoke. You were a guest speaker at one of the events. And I loved your presentation. It really hit home for me. And you were talking about competition and being authentically you. And you talked about how you're a fitness expert. And there's a million and one fitness experts. But you're not letting that hold you back, that there's other people. Like you're just figure out who you are, be authentic, be on brand, and serve. That really meant a lot to me. Can you just share with our listeners a little bit more about that?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, it's true, right? Like, yes. So I'm a fitness instructor and I talk about healthy habits and weight loss, and the things that I say are the biggest no-brainer things that everyone has heard in kindergarten. I tell people to eat their vegetables. I tell them to get enough sleep and don't drink so much booze. Well, that wasn't covered in kindergarten so much, but, I tell them to move their bodies and blah, 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 all these kind of things. And I guarantee my audience has heard this before. However, sometimes, like you just said, I need to hear it again once a year because for my audience, there's something in the way that I say it that helps them hear it differently. And there's so many things, how often have you had an aha moment that just drops and it's something so basic like, oh my God, I finally understood. It's all about what makes me happy or whatever. And you're like, everyone else is like, oh, duh. But, but you just heard it for the first time. So I think that anybody who is thinking, oh my gosh, I need the secret formula. I need something that no one else has. And I'm like, no, you don't. You just need to say it the way only you can say it, because everybody's heard everything before, but they've never heard you say it. And you might say it in a way that there are people out there who are desperate to hear it in a way that only you can phrase it. Right? And so for me, I tend to be a little irreverent and I swear a little bit and I make dorky jokes and blah, blah, blah. And for some people, that's really resonates. And for some people, it completely turns them off. And that's perfect. That's perfect. So I could never be Jillian Michaels or, to my sorrow, Richard Simmons. There's so many other people out there who are doing amazingly. And they've got people who are like, oh my God, I needed to hear it from Jillian. And so they're not my audience. My audience needs to hear it from me.
Oh, amen. I got chills during that. I feel like that's such an important message for business owners, because we so often are like looking at what the other person is doing and comparing ourselves and having all the self-doubt. Or I do this a lot. It's like, I've said this so many times. Do they really need to hear it again? And so I feel like I have to come up with new stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. And then I'm burning myself out because it's like, oh my gosh, I can't come up with anything new. And sometimes the basic stuff is what people need to hear. So, and from you.
True. You know what? I actually just went live in my group the other day and I gave them some little bit of a tough love smackdown. And it was, and it was something that literally I was like, basically, this is like all I ever talk about. This is what's in my book. It's, blah, blah, blah. And there was this huge stream of comments being like, oh my God, I needed that. I can't. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Because that's all, you should know that by now. But it's true, you just need to hear it. And another story that reinforces that. So I used to teach the course that certifies new personal trainers. And one of the things that was so illuminating and kind of sad is that the biggest question that prospective students would have for me is it okay if I take the course to get certified as a personal trainer if I'm not, like perfect, if I'm not ripped, if I still have some like work to do on my body? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Because there are people out there, let's say you're 50 pounds overweight or whatever. There's people out there who are 100 pounds overweight and they won't be able to hear, Jillian Michaels or whoever. They can't even hear it. They're like, I can't relate to you. But that person who's only 50 pounds overweight, who used to be 100 pounds, that is the only vessel that they will listen to and trust. And oh my gosh, absolutely. So whatever background you're bringing, even there's so many people holding themselves back because they don't think they're perfect enough to present themselves as an expert yet. I'm like, if you've done any kind of work, there's people, you are ahead of some people and they want to hear it from you.
Yes. Oh, such great advice. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that I asked you about that, because that was so much gold in itself. And we don't want people holding themselves back from the world. Like, we all are unique individuals. Like, get out there, be seen, and help people. You are right at home on Crystal and Cork, because we do swear here. Okay. And we do tell dorky jokes. So you're right at home.
Excellent.
So before we dive in, I just want to give a cheers. I have some wine today. I know you've got some water.
Water bottle. Cheers.
And Oonagh, I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about your business and how you got started.
Oh my gosh. Well, how I got started, I was an actor and a playwright. And I'm going to really throw your audience for a curveball here when I tell them that doesn't pay very well to be a documentary playwright in Canada. I know, it's like what everybody wants to do when they grow up, and for some reason it just doesn't pay like it should. And so I was being a documentary playwright and going to auditions, and then I thought I would become a fitness instructor, because for me, it was like enough like musical theater. I was like, I get to wear a tight costume and it's colorful and I'm in front of people and jazz hands, and that was all great. And then so I started doing that at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. and teaching boot camp classes and blah, blah, blah. And I thought, and I would write and do auditions during the day. And then just one day I had this epiphany where I was like, you know what? I'm having more fun doing my dorky fitness stuff than I am doing my tortured artist playwriting stuff, even though that was such an identity that I had for myself. And when I made the decision just to let that go and really go for my dorky fitness stuff, it was like, Crystal, like suddenly swimming downstream. It was like everything started happening and it was just easy and it was fun and the opportunities came and my following just grew and just, it was amazing. So I started a boot camp company and then that expanded into a bunch of different locations. And then I started blogging just for the fun of it, just, cause I just had shit to say. And so I started writing it down and, I had this tiny list of people who are former clients and, when my mom and whatever. And then I started, and then I threw, what was it? Oh yeah. And then Christmas happened and I felt a little fluffy after the holidays. And I thought previously I'd always been like pretty good about exercise, but, I was also, eating, I would also be crushing a lot of beers. And so I thought, work hard, play hard kind of thing. And so I was like, oh, let's try eating well. And I just thought, I threw it as an experiment to a bunch of my clients. I was like, who wants to try this, vegetables? And we did for a month. And of course, we all had unbelievable results. And then I turned that into a program. And that's how the business started. And I just launched it to my little baby list. And then we just kept launching it and then it kind of grew and I added stuff to it. And then it turned into this online program. And then, so that was the start of it.
I love it. And when did you start?
I think that was in 2015 or 16. I always forget which January it was, but I think it was maybe 2016. Yeah.
Okay. I love it. And of course, I've been following along. We're in our mastermind. I love listening to the transformation that you're seeing with your clients. I just feel like that's got to be so incredibly rewarding. You have so many amazing stories and things that you shared in the book too, that I got choked up about. Just, it's so amazing to see what you're doing. So I love it. I love just knowing you. You're just such an amazing human. Tell me, this kind of is perfect for our first question here of what is a made it moment for you? And I just want to share with the audience, a made it moment is something I talked about in season 1. And this is something that can be big or small. It's this moment where you're like, it hits, it clicks, and you're like, I did it. I overcame a fear. I put myself out there. I finally listened to myself. Or it might be you crossed over the $1 million mark, or you're being interviewed by Oprah. Who knows, whatever that made it moment is. So I would love to hear what's one of yours.
You know what was such a made it moment for me was the first time I saw a payment come through from a stranger. Someone whose email address I didn't know. And I was like, what? Who is that person? And how? Oh my gosh. That was I was like, oh, step aside, world. I am an internet baron. There's strangers signing up for my stuff. That was a huge moment for me.
Oh my God. Yeah. I love it, Oonagh. That seriously is a huge milestone. You're like, oh my gosh, friends and family, when you see them coming in, you're like, oh, thanks guys for the support. But when you feel like they're doing this favor almost sometimes, but then you've got a stranger coming through, man, it's meaningful. Yeah.
It was a huge moment. It was a huge moment. Huge. And another one was I was at a conference and I will always remember I was standing there in my, carefully chosen outfit and blah, blah, blah. And I was saying hi to the girl next to me and she went, oh, I know you from the internet. And I was like, what? I was looking around oh my God. It was, it was huge.
Oh,
huge.
You're like, I'm a celebrity. People know me.
Totally. Who wants my autograph? This is massive. I was like, is everyone hearing this? She knows me from the internet.
Hello.
Where people get famous. So that was a huge one. And then probably my most the moment that I found out that, my book was number 1 on the bestsellers list, which is Crystal, as you know, because Crystal was with me, everyone listening, she was with me for every step of this, of me getting an agent and wanting to write a book and then talking about it forever and saying I was too busy to actually do it and then freaking doing it. So she was here for all of that. And then, and I always had this vision and I wanted to be number 1 on the bestseller list. And so all the marketing and the everything, the months and months and the whatever. And then I was in Houston or whatever at another event, and I heard from my publisher that we hadn't made it, that we hadn't made the list. And I was like, okay, you know what? That was really unrealistic anyway. And it's okay, because I'm still getting a lot of great like responses, and and I really, I had a little like moment of feeling kind of silly and kind of disappointed, but moving on. And then, the 2 days later, I got a call from them saying, "Oh, we made a mistake. You are number one." And I was in the airport, and oh my God, I took a picture. I'm crying. There's all these people who don't care around me. And it's just it was amazing.
Oh my God, I love it, Oonagh. That must have been an amazing feeling, because not only are you getting this news that you wanted, but you first were told you didn't get it. So it's like you've cleared that off. Mental space didn't do it. Damn it, and then all of a sudden, actually,
oh yeah, it was twice as sweet because of that moment. Yeah.
Oh, so awesome. Thank you for sharing those. And I'm so proud of you. And I see why it's a bestseller, number one, because it's such an awesome book and just who you are. Love those moments. They're so good.
Thank you.
Tell me about the best business advice you've received, and by who?
Okay, so my best business advice I actually got when I was doing my master's of acting. I went to this very schmancy acting school in London, England. And we did Stanislavski approach. And so when you're doing that, when you're approaching a character, your character has an objective, which is like their grand plan, right? So let's say a character, like she wants to take over the world or whatever. Then you've got the obstacles. So you've got to do all the work of like, what are my character's obstacles? And then you figure out what are the actions that my character needs to do in order to accomplish her objective, right? And here's the big nugget. Those actions are always a transformative verb in which you are changing someone else. So let me give you the example here. Let's say my objective is to take over the world. My obstacles is that there's lots of competition, and that one of my actions is to seduce the head of the New York Times or whatever, right? So if in my scene, what I need to be focusing on is, if I am seducing him, is he feeling seduced? If in my scene, I am focusing on me being seductive, it's freaking cringe. It's freaking cringe. If you are focusing on yourself, and if you are acting like the thing that you want to act like, it's horrible to watch, and it's never going to freaking work. However, if you are actually focusing on the other person and whether you are changing them, it's freaking fascinating, and it will work. And so here's how this like kind of applies to business. In my business, let's say, my objective is to help everyone have healthy habits that makes them feel good. And that one of my actions, and one of the ways that I want to accomplish that, is to inspire, right? So now if I'm all on freaking social media, be like, look at me being inspiring, like I'm inspiring, right. Look at me, I'm inspiring. That's horrible. And it's not going to work. Whereas if I'm like, I am focused on Crystal and I am trying to inspire her. Is it working? I'm focused on her. No, it's not working. I got to try something else. And then you're constantly like calibrating with your audience, and you're engaged with them, and you don't freaking stop until you start getting a million comments being like, oh my God, I feel so inspired. Thank you. And then you're like, yes, I did my job. Yes. But not until you are transforming someone else instead of you're putting on a show. Putting on a show is fucking bullshit. Transforming other people is the only thing that matters. And it reminds me of like, again, when I was teaching the personal trainers, and even when I've done like a little bit of business coaching here and there, people get so caught up in my freaking brand and my website and my authority. I needed to take another life coaching course. I'm not quite ready. And I'm like, I need to take another fitness certification. I'm like, shut up and start getting results for other people. Stop navel gazing.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I mean, for me, when I speak on stage in person and online, and I start thinking about myself,
you're screwed.
I can't breathe. No. I kind of shortness of breath. I got to take a sip of water. I kind of lose focus. But when I'm like looking at their face, did that land? Did they get that? Are they getting this? Are they there? It's like a total game changer. That's such great advice. Oh my gosh.
Awesome.
I feel like that would be you just have to look at all aspects of business through that lens too, like how you're delivering, but even with your copy, focusing on your customer and the results that they are going to have. This is not about you.
That's
I
right.
think that we still get caught up in like the image we want to have. And then that's where we lead. And often people figure that out pretty quick. Like, oh, you're in it for you, not me.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's great advice.
Yeah.
Great advice. I'm a very curious person. I think you know this about me. And so I am curious where your curiosity is right now. What kind of questions are you asking yourself?
Oh my gosh. You know what, Crystal? I am kind of going through a bit of a midlife crisis right now. I am questioning kind of big things. Okay, I'm questioning like I lost. I had 3 people die in my business last year. I had an employee and a client and a client who helped us out, so kind of a hybrid. And it was a heart attack, a motorcycle accident, and sudden cancer. And it just left me, and they're all my age. And so I've been one of the questions I've been asking myself is, what does it mean to live life fully? What does that mean for me? And because life is now, like it's whatever you thought you were going to be when you grew up, it's freaking now. Well, it is for me, right?
Right.
And so there's no waiting. There's no I'll get to that later when my kids grow up, when I lose the weight, that's my clients, when I whatever. No, now. So stop, postpone it. So that's one of the things. What does it mean to live life fully now? Is one thing I've been questioning a lot. I've also been questioning a lot how to be a good person, which is kind of funny because it feels a little bit in opposition. Does that make me a bad person? No. So for example, like I'm noticing, a lot of I have a handful of friends who I have always thought were the most admirable, beautiful, wonderful people who are getting freaking canceled. And so, and I, from my position of total privilege, am looking at them going, oh my God, what did they do wrong? Oh my God, I'm going to do something wrong. What? I don't understand what wrong is now. And I am taking courses and I'm still very confused. So what it means to be a good person in that way. And I also had a big awakening about climate change recently, which is, again, I talked about like those things that everyone knows, and then you're like, whoa. So I was like that about like, whoa, the environment, like,
right.
So I've been a little like, having some chin strokey moments of the utility of helping people with their personal health and wellness in a world that is so sick. So those are all the things I'm questioning.
Oh man, those are big questions, Oonagh. Those are big questions. Going back to living life fully, what are one of those things for you?
Well, travel has always been at the top of that list for me. And so obviously that's been harder for sure. And my husband, I'm pointing because he's right over there. He also challenges me because because one of the ways I want to experience this and that, and I want to do all the things. And he's more of a like, let's focus and go deep. And I'm like, nah, let's just go somewhere else. So that's the question. Like, what is that me avoiding, really going deep, or is it me craving more breadth of experience and I got more questions. I don't have any of this figured out. I shouldn't be talking about this on a podcast.
No, that's the thing though. None of us have it figured out. It's refreshing to know that people don't. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because I think that we all sit here and be like, look at everybody else thinking that they've got it all figured out when we all internally are going through shit and struggling with different things. And that's a big reason why I want this podcast, so we can be honest and talk about that so people know they're not alone. And, I think the element for you, let's go, but go deep. Like it can be both, right? Like finding that balance. And that's probably one of the things that works for you and your husband, of the balance. But those are very deep thoughts and interesting thoughts. And I also just want to say I'm so sorry to hear about the loss of Everett. That's really hard in such a short period too. And just it's very hard. I know there's been a lot of loss in the world over the past couple of years, and it's been heavy. And so I'm just so sorry to hear that. But thank you for sharing your curiosities. And I'm excited to see kind of where you go with them, because they're big questions, and it is an interesting world, the whole like kind of cancel culture and what does it mean? And I struggle with this too, of like, there's this element of feeling like, can I trust this person? Because everything is online, like the online people that you don't know, and they can say whatever they want. They can make it seem however life is. We can share just the highlights. And I've got caught up in that with some people who are like the motivational speakers. You know, I've got caught up and I'm like investing in them and believing everything they say. And then it turns out to be like completely false. And it's such a letdown. And I don't want to do that. I know you don't. And there's a lot more to unpack there too with being a good person. But those are great curiosities. My final question is, what are you listening to or reading right now or recently that you would recommend?
So one that I've read recently, I'm sure you read it. It's called The One Thing. And I love it because I talk a lot about in my book, the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. What's the 20% effort that's going to give you 80% results? And so this book, it says, you know, and of that 20%, what's the 20% of the 20%? And the 20%, blah, blah, blah. So then you bring it down to one thing, and it gives you this great question to ask yourself, what is the one thing I can do right now about whatever that will make everything else either easier or unnecessary? And even just asking the question, I'm like, oh yeah, because like you, I like got ideas. I want to do a million things. And then it just, it can feel like I've got 1,000 browser tabs open in my brain at all times. And that beach ball is starting to go like that. And so to ask that question really helps me narrow it and focus.
I have to read that book again because I am in that spot right now, as you know, of like a million ideas and the energy is high. So I want to use it, but I want to direct it towards the right things. And that's another one of those books that's good to listen to or read like at least once a year, kind of reality check to get back to. Because we work so hard. Like, why do we always work so hard? What's that one thing? And focus there. That's a great suggestion. Oonagh, how can people connect with you and learn more about you?
Oh my gosh. Well, I would love to meet any of your listeners. I'm on best way is probably fitfeelsgood.com, or my Instagram is Oonagh Duncan, Oonagh, Oonagh. But fitfeelsgood.com, and you can get on my list, and I write fun emails, and I would love to connect with any of your listeners.
Yes, I love it so much. And I highly recommend the book. Like I mentioned, definitely check Oonagh out, and we'll link to all of this so you can find her. And Oonagh, I just want to give another cheers. It was so great having you on the show. I feel like, man, we talked about a lot in a little bit of time. This was so great. Thank you for sharing everything with my listeners.
Thank you so much for having me. And Crystal, you ask amazing questions. You are one of my favorite people to chat with.
Oh, I love it. Thanks, Oonagh. All right, everybody. I will see you on the next See You. Bye.
Bye.
All right, let's keep this conversation going. Join me on Instagram. I'm at Crystal Uncorked. And I need to tell you, thank you so much for listening to this show. It truly means the world to me. If you're enjoying Crystal Uncorked, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Okay, I'll see you on the next See You. Cheers, friend.